In the mountains of Greece, there is a people who never built a permanent home. Not a village, not a church of their own, not even a fixed grave. For 3,000 years, they lived in black woolen tents, moving with the seasons, following their flocks from the high peaks of summer to the coastal plains of winter, and vanishing back into the mountains before anyone could pin down who they really were. The other Greeks called them Sarakatsani. Where the name comes from, nobody agrees. Where the people come from, nobody agrees either. Some say they are the last pure descendants of the ancient Dorians, the very tribe that once conquered the Peloponnese and gave the world Sparta. Others say they are something older still, a fragment of Greek-speaking people who fled into the mountains and simply never came down, while the world outside was invaded, converted, and reshaped a dozen times over. This is the story of the people who chose the mountain over the memory books, and the mystery of where they really came from. To understand the Sarakatsani, you have to first understand what they were not. They were not farmers. They did not own land in any permanent sense, and for most of their history, they did not want to. They were not villagers in the way we usually picture rural Greece. No fixed address, no ancestral house passed from father to son. What they were was shepherds. Full-time, year-round, mountain and valley shepherds, organized into large extended family groups called selingata, each one led by an elder, the tselingas, who managed the flock, negotiated grazing rights, and held the group together as it moved. Twice a year, the whole community packed up. In late spring, they drove their flocks up into the high mountain pastures of the Pindus Range and other highlands across mainland Greece, escaping the summer heat below. In autumn, they came back down to the lowlands and the coast, where the winters were milder and the grazing held out. This pattern is called transhumance, seasonal migration between highland and lowland pasture, and it is ancient. Some form of it has existed in the mountains of Greece since before written history. But what makes the Sarakatsani remarkable is how completely they built their entire identity around it, and for how long they refused to stop. Their homes were tents made of black goat's hair wool, waterproof, portable, and instantly recognizable. Their clothing, too, was almost uniformly black and dark, heavy wool, hand-woven by the women of the community, built for mountain winters, not city streets. And, crucially, they married almost exclusively among themselves. For centuries, a Sarakatsanos married a Sarakatsanissa, and outsiders were rare. This wasn't simple prejudice, it was survival. A nomadic community that intermarries with settled populations risks losing the very thing that makes it able to move. The shared knowledge, the shared rhythm, the shared willingness to live without walls. The result was a people who, well into the 20th century, still spoke, dressed, and lived in a way that felt like a window into a much older Greece. A Greece before cities, before empires, before the modern nation ever existed. So where did they come from? Here, the historians split into camps almost as isolated from each other as the Sarakatsani once were from the villages below. Theory 1. The Dorian descendants. Around 1100 BC, waves of Greek-speaking peoples known as the Dorians moved south into the Greek peninsula, eventually founding powerful city-states like Sparta and Argos. Some scholars and folklorists, particularly in the 19th and early 20th centuries, proposed that the Sarakatsani were a surviving remnant of these original Dorian tribes, shepherds who never settled into cities and who simply kept living the pastoral life their ancestors always had, while their city-building cousins built the classical world around them. It's a romantic theory, and it's not entirely without evidence. Some elements of Sarakatsani dialect and custom do appear archaic, preserving forms of Greek that had died out elsewhere. But most modern linguists are cautious about drawing a straight line 3,000 years long. Language can preserve old features through isolation alone, without requiring a single unbroken bloodline back to the Bronze Age. Theory 2. Refugees from the Slavic migrations. A second theory places the Sarakatsani's formation much later, around the 6th and 7th centuries AD, when Slavic-speaking peoples migrated into the Balkans in large numbers, reshaping the population of mainland Greece. According to this view, the Sarakatsani are descendants of Greek-speaking populations who retreated into the mountains to avoid this upheaval, trading the safety of the plains for the isolation of the highlands, and simply never came back down, generation after generation, until nomadic shepherding wasn't just a livelihood, but an identity. This theory has the advantage of a clearer historical trigger, a real, documented population movement. But it still can't fully explain why the Sarakatsani specifically, out of all the mountain populations of Greece, developed such a distinct and separate culture. Theory 3. A caste, not a bloodline. The most recent academic view sidesteps the ancestry question almost entirely. Some anthropologists argue that Sarakatsani was never a single ethnic origin at all. It was a way of life that different Greek-speaking mountain populations adopted over centuries for practical reasons: better grazing routes, avoiding taxation, evading conscription, or simply finding freedom in the mountains that the settled world didn't offer. Over time, shared customs, shared marriage practices, and shared hardship welded these separate groups into what looked, from the outside, like a single people. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We may never know for certain which of these theories is right, or whether the real answer is some blend of all three. What we do know is that by the time European travelers and Greek folklorists began seriously documenting the Sarakatsani in the 19th century, they were already ancient in their own eyes. A people who had always been shepherds, as far back as anyone in the community could remember. If the ancestry is uncertain, the language offers one of the strongest clues we have. Sarakatsani speech is a dialect of Greek, not a separate language unlike some of the other groups we've covered on this channel. But it's a dialect that linguists have long found unusually conservative, preserving pronunciations, vocabulary, and grammatical forms that vanished from mainstream modern Greek centuries ago. This is not unlike what we saw with Sardinians' relationship to Latin. Geographic and social isolation acts like a time capsule. When a community doesn't mix heavily with outsiders and doesn't experience the same waves of outside linguistic influence that reshape a language over time, older forms can simply survive, unchanged, long after they've disappeared everywhere else. For the Sarakatsani, that isolation wasn't just geographic. It was chosen, deliberately, generation after generation, through their marriage customs and their refusal to settle. In a very real sense, their language may be less a mystery to be solved and more a symptom of the same relentless self-containment that defined every other part of their culture. For most of their history, The Sarakatsani existed almost entirely outside the concerns of the states around them. Empires rose and fell: Byzantine, Ottoman, and eventually the modern Greek state. But the mountains didn't change, and neither, for a long time, did the rhythm of the flocks. That began to change in the 20th century. The rise of the modern Greek nation-state brought borders, land registration, and administrative demands that a nomadic people simply couldn't satisfy. Fixed national borders after the Balkan Wars and the First World War cut across traditional grazing routes that had been used for centuries, suddenly turning a normal seasonal migration into an international border crossing. Then came the Second World War and the Greek Civil War that followed, a period of devastating disruption across the Greek countryside, mountain regions especially, where much of the fighting and reprisals took place. Flocks were lost, families were displaced, and the traditional routes became dangerous or simply impossible to maintain. In the decades after, the Greek government actively encouraged and, in places, required permanent settlement, part of a broader modernization drive across rural Greece. Village life, fixed housing, and integration into the national economy gradually replaced the tent and the flock for most Sarakatsani families. By the late 20th century, the fully nomadic way of life had all but disappeared. A journey that had lasted 3,000 years, down from the summer peaks, up from the winter plains, generation after generation, quietly came to an end within the span of a single human lifetime. Today, the descendants of the Sarakatsani live largely settled lives across mainland Greece, indistinguishable at a glance from their neighbours. Many still farm or raise livestock, but the black tents and the twice-yearly migration exist now mostly in memory, in museums, and in cultural festivals that keep the old songs, dances, and dress alive for a new generation. There is real pride in that heritage. Sarakatsani cultural associations across Greece work to preserve the traditional songs, a distinct and much admired oral tradition, along with the elaborate embroidered clothing, the customs, and the stories, even as the way of life that produced them has all but vanished. And the mystery of where they truly came from, Dorian remnant, Slavic-era refugees, or a mountain caste built from many different roots, remains exactly that. A mystery, still argued over in academic journals, and, if the history of this channel's comment section is any guide, argued over with even more passion by the people who feel this history is, in some way, their own. 3,000 years is a long time to keep moving. Long enough to outlast Sparta, outlast Byzantium, outlast empires that thought themselves eternal. And then, in the space of one generation, it stopped. Whether the Sarakatsani are the last living Dorians, the descendants of people who once fled south into the mountains, or something else entirely that history hasn't fully untangled, one thing is certain. For 3,000 years, a people looked at the settled world below them and chose the mountain instead. Maybe that's the real story here. Not where they came from, but why, for 3,000 years, they refused to stop. But the Sarakatsani aren't the only ones who chose isolation over the settled world. Deep in the Balkans, there's another people whose faith makes no sense next to their language. Turkic-speaking, but devoutly Christian, in a region where that combination should never have survived. That's next time on Echoes of the Forgotten. If this is the kind of history that gets you asking questions nobody has clean answers for, subscribe and come argue about it in the comments. I read every one.